So we're gonna be calling Shannon High.
Downey, this is your team. Please get us a Dairy Queen. We miss you, Downey. Please. Please come home, Downey.
My name is Shannon High, and I'm ready to be your junior class president.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Another episode of The Shannon Show, the first episode actually of 2022. It is the Best Military Kids podcast. And today we have a great guest with us, fellow podcaster. Avi is on the show today. How you doing, my man?
Pretty excited. It's an honor to be the first podcast for The Shannon Show for 2022.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's definitely, I don't know. I have a lot of good things in store for the year. I can't wait to get started, and I'm sure, as everyone does, have some resolutions, some fun things to get to. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But Avi, tell me, how's that Arizona winter treating you, my man?
Well, for the first 11 years of my life, I lived in Washington State. And winter over there gets pretty brutal. So comparing over here to Washington, it isn't that bad. And I'm a bit of a cold weather person, so I'm pretty fond of it. The ice on the road can be a bit precarious sometimes, but other than
In
that,
Arizona?
oh yeah,
It gets
this
that
is
cold?
Flagstaff. Oh yeah, man.
What? I feel like,
Yeah, we live in Flagstaff, which is 6,000 feet above sea level.
oh, there you
And
go.
yeah, we're in the mountains, so we get 2-3 feet of snow during winter.
That's pretty serious. I was not expecting that. For some reason,
For
I think
sure.
Arizona. I just think the whole thing's desert. What am I
I
thinking?
thought so too until I moved here.
You said you're leaving for college tomorrow.
Tomorrow is moving day for me. Yeah,
That is
so this whole
crazy.
week it's been logistics and forms, trying to network with some people at ASU and, just trying to fix a couple things that, taken a bit long or haven't been sorted out yet. Like my
Yeah.
math class. I am like 2 classes behind where I should be. So I just got to get a couple forms in, transcripts in, so to make sure that I'm not going backwards when I start college.
Yeah. So this is your first semester.
First semester would be spring, yep.
Yeah. So you're starting in the
And
spring. That's a little unusual. Why are you starting in the spring?
just because I wanted to start as soon as possible, I couldn't
Yeah.
start in the fall because I had some issues with my homeschooling.
Gotcha.
And it was just easier for me to transition into college during the spring. I didn't want to wait a whole another year for fall.
Yeah, I understand that completely. I have a few friends who are doing the same thing. One of my friends, he just got done with Marine Corps boot camp, and he's ready to go to college now because he's a reservist. So, that happens. Just get started whenever you can. What's your major going to be?
I'm going to be majoring in computer science with a focus in
Yeah.
cybersecurity. Super popular major right now. Great
Yeah.
job security, great potential for, different type of responsibilities in the Air Force. And computer science is something I like a lot. Might change out of cybersecurity later on.
hmm
Not sure yet.
Have you already gotten some sort of coding experience, or when did you really get interested in computer science?
So when I was working on my associate's degree last year, I
Oh,
took some computer science courses, so coding, graphic design, um, algorithms, and systems analysis. So I have some programming experience. I've also done a couple internships here and there, but not too much. I know that a lot of people are going into computer science because of software development, and even though I love coding, I don't see myself being able to sit behind a computer 10 hours a day working on like 14 lines of codes because they won't run.
yeah, it's tough, man. I took like one coding class my freshman year. I'm a sophomore now. I go to Penn State. I'm doing aerospace engineering, and I took like one computer science class, and it's tough, man. It's like some of those problems, I'm like, I could never see myself doing it. And it's just like staring at the computer all the time. But there's some kids in my classes that are just like super talented. Like they just have a knack for like the coding and being efficient and solving the
For
problems so
sure.
easily.
Some of these
And
people, especially going into college, you see they've been coding since they were like 4.5 years
yeah,
old.
exactly.
The second language is R, and they create the next Instagram on their free time. It's crazy seeing what the amazing stuff people are doing with computer science right now.
Yeah. People really are starting young too, like you said. And I think that that's great. I mean, that's what everything that we use today is built on, coding. That's the language that like all of our technology. So the fact that we can get kids learning that, that'd be pretty neat. Avi, you are a military brat, which I mean, thank goodness this is the best military kids podcast. So what better place? Tell me a little bit about the branch your family was a part of, some of the places you lived, just what was growing up like. You said 11 years in Washington, so
Yes.
elaborate.
So I didn't get to live a lot of that military lifestyle that a
Hmm.
lot of these military brats do. My mom signed a dotted line when she was 18, got into the army, and she got out as an E5 a couple years later when she had me. So I was born right after her military service ended, and
Gotcha.
then she was at a couple places, but she got deployed to Washington State, which is where, she decided to settle. And then from there, 11 years in Washington, moved to Guam for 5 years, and then here to Arizona. And even though I haven't gotten that real military influence, especially through childhood, as I'm getting into college and this next phase of adulthood, my mom has been really pushing the military as an option. So for the past 3, 4 years, I've been, networking with people, trying to contact a bunch of current and former
Yeah.
service members, academy graduates, and as a result, joining organizations like Act Now and the Military Podcast, just because I love the military community so much. It's crazy how even the military spouses, the veterans, and the reservists feel like they're all part of the same family, which is amazing. And that camaraderie is something that I thoroughly enjoy, especially podcasting. So, joining ROTC in college is going to be a big focus of mine. I want to make sure that I be able to live out that vision with everybody around me. It's just something I've been admiring for the past 3, 4 years of my life, in high school especially.
Gotcha. And tell me a little bit about Guam. You said 5 years in Guam. That's a pretty unique place to live. I have a friend or two that lived in Guam as well. Very small island. What was that like for you?
Well, in Guam, it's like you said, a really small island.
Yeah.
About a third of it is reserved for military bases. So there's
Right.
a naval base down there, a Air Force base, mainly because it's close to Asia and Europe. It's a very strategic location in the Pacific Ocean. So very valuable position, especially in a couple wars. Throughout the 1900s, it's been very useful for the US. In terms of living there, there's a lot of military presence. They mainly stay on their base grounds, so it's not too much you see, day to day. A lot of tourists though, and it's only 170,000 people. You can drive from the top to the bottom of the island in about 35 and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So the community down there is pretty darn closely knit. Everybody knows each other. It's typical island life. The beaches
Yeah.
are pretty nice. It's a little underdeveloped for a U.S. territory, so you still see things like paper communications and faxes and things like that. Whereas today, everything's paperless.
Hmm.
You have a bunch of different apps for your banks and taxes and all that. So in terms of the municipal side of it, it's a little backwards, but it's a great place to live if you want a slice of the island life and want to enjoy a closely knit community of different races and ethnicities. Beautiful place.
Yeah. It's always a place I've wanted to visit. I lived in Okinawa for 3 years, so I kind of get what you mean by that island life. It's kind of bizarre, living in the States and then you go someplace where you said like 30 minutes across and you're like, what? This is unbelievable. Like it does feel, I don't know if claustrophobic's the right word, but it takes a little bit to get used to.
For sure.
Um,
It's kind of jarring to go out to the grocery store, the bank, the beach, um, the tax office,
yeah.
and come back in like half an hour. It's crazy.
Exactly. And then just the density of the population is so much higher too, at least in Okinawa. I'm not sure about Guam. It's just so many more people living, like you said, very tight knit. It's just very close. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. I like that lifestyle though. I really enjoyed it. So if anyone has the opportunity to live on an island or somewhere in Asia, it's a great experience.
I know that when my mom told me, "Hey, pack your bags, we're heading to Guam," I was pretty concerned because
Yeah.
living in Washington State, you have the big evergreen trees, the mountains, the glaciers, the lakes, and then we're moving to this tiny island that's not much bigger than the town I lived in. So
Mhm.
I was pretty confused and worried that I wouldn't be able to blend in with the people around me, or I would get close to people and then have to move right after. I know that's
Right.
a big problem a lot of these military kids face. However, we originally were supposed to stay in Guam for 2 years, ended up staying for 5, and throughout that time, it took me 2 years to warm up to the island.
Really.
So, I mean, fitting into the high school scene over there, teen years is a very formative part of your life. I
Hmm.
was still trying to warm up to everybody over there, but after that, I really, really got to bond with the people there, even the Department of Education and the teachers over there. In small communities like that, you get a chance to make a name for yourself, not
Oh yeah.
necessarily in a arrogant way, but to be able to make known where you're going in life, have some people support you, make some friends, and even some closely knit family members over there. So if you're on the cusp of moving to a new places like Okinawa, I know is super popular, or if you're heading to Guam or somewhere else like that, know that it's not going to be hard for long. You have a break-in period, whether it be 1 month, 6 months, 8 months, but after that, it's about making yourself comfortable and finding the best in the situation. And
Right.
that's how I got through it.
Yeah, so much of it is mindset, like you said. It's just kind of like, where are you mentally going into that move? Because I think we've all had those moves where, what's the point? I'm going to leave there in 2 years anyways. I'm going to leave all my friends. Well, what does it matter? And that's like you said, you end up being there for 5, and you don't really know with the military lifestyle. There's no way to know. So all you can do is just try and make the best of it. And I would so much rather go to a small place like Okinawa or Guam in a small high school than get lost in like a really big high school. Because like you said, it's an opportunity to make your name for yourself. And that's not necessarily, like you said, in an arrogant way, but just you can stand out a little bit. You can kind of get involved in more things that you might not be able to in a bigger high school because you might slip through the cracks, you might be overlooked, you might, not make the team if in a sports case. So it's really a great opportunity. It should be embraced.
For sure. And for those military kids out there, wearing the badge of a military dependent or family member is an honor. I
Hmm.
mean, if you have the chance to make known that your family is doing something for the country, or you had a parent, family member sacrifice themselves for their squad mates or something like that, that's a badge of honor that you should wear rather than shaming for moving and not being able to
Yeah.
connect with people like that.
Yeah, I think that the military brat community is making a lot of progress in that. Everyone's like becoming more proud, and there's so many great organizations now. People are doing so many great things, just bringing light to the issues they face. Like Bloom Military Teens, I'm not sure if you follow them, but they are just doing some great stuff. They did a big survey on military kid mental health, and like you said, just be proud, and you're doing great things for your country. It may not seem like it. I know you're just trying to get through high school, but you really are making some pretty serious sacrifices, and everyone appreciates it. You mentioned, Avi, the Act Now program. I want you to get a little bit more in depth in that and the podcast and just explain a little bit more about that organization. Oh, wait, I lost your audio. There you go. Yeah.
Am I good? Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. So the Act Now education transition programs are
Yeah.
mainly for veterans transitioning out of the military. However, something KP and I are especially trying to do on the Morning Formation podcast is focus on transitioning into the military as well. Because something that we believe is that your transition out of the military starts when you transition into the military, whether it be knowledge, certifications, mentality, all of that is going to play on how easy it is to transition out later on.
Mm.
So we want to make sure that we get those teens, the young adults who are thinking about transitioning into the military and starting this next chapter in their life, get their opinions known, give them advice on how to tackle things like mental health or technical preparedness, like in their field, or trying to figure out what the military lifestyle is like. And that's a big reason about why Act Now does what it does. Everything we do is free. We have the webinars, we have amazing guests and volunteers who try and do their best to get as much information out there to as many people as possible. I think over the last year and a half, we've had around 13,000 members in that Facebook group, all getting resources,
That's
sharing
awesome.
resources. definitely is. And I know there are a bunch of large organizations out there, V2Y, Veterans Grow America, that do a lot of the same things. And it's that community that really pushes ACT now to grow more, because I think the numbers is it's 3% of the US population is military affiliated, or I think it's 4 or 5 now. But that's a lot of people. 5% of 300 million is a lot of people out there to be helped. And not everybody is transitioning immediately. Not everybody's thinking about transitioning out, staying active duty, but helping as many people as we can with those issues is what drives ACT now to do what it does. And I think that's just a very, very amazing thing, especially since after joining, I've been able to see how difficult getting out of the military really is, especially, free ACT now education. I thought, hey, you get into the military, you have all this service under your belt, anybody and anyone will want you because of what you did for your country. But it's not that easy, and it's not that simple for a lot of people. So it really opened my eyes as to the types of problems people encounter and how military brats, dependents, and spouses play into that conversation as well, with either supporting active duty members from home, starting their own businesses, joining organizations, making podcasts.
Yeah. Tell me your role within the Morning Formation podcast. That's some great work you're doing, but what do you do specifically?
So I started out as just like the background and behind the scenes editor and organizer. So I'd help KP find guests. Oh, 1 second.
You're fine.
Sorry about that.
No, all good.
So I started out as just a editor and, assistant for the podcast, doing any marketing or graphic design, posting on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. And then I asked him if I could start co-hosting just because I wanted to play a more active role in it. He said, of course. We did some trial podcasts between him and then I started co-hosting with him. So on a normal Morning Formation podcast, you have KP, me, and the guest. It's a trifecta right there. But KP and I are bouncing questions off each other. The guest is answering them, and we're just having a great time sharing information. I know, especially with these older guests or these more experienced veterans, it's great to see, I should say refreshing, to see a teen in this type of environment, helping veterans, helping the transitioning community, because it shows them that, there's still hope for us.
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying with that. And you guys have a great rapport with one another as well. And I think that's the most important thing to have in a co-host is just good chemistry and good connection. And the fact you guys did trial podcasts, that's a great way to try and build that. I haven't had any co-hosts for a long period of time, but I can imagine that it's easier in some ways to have another person kind of stirring the conversation and making the podcast progress. So yeah, everything I've seen from you guys has been really exciting. Do you ever get nervous if you have some veteran come on who has a bunch of prestige to them, they're really savvy? Because I don't know, whenever I have a really important guest, I get I'm all amped up before, kind of nervous.
Yeah, that's another plus about having a co-host. They can, ground you at times,
Yeah.
especially if you're a little nervous or not having the best of a day. The co-host, or in this case, a great friend, can really reel you in and help you support yourself that way. I know, especially, we had a guest that was a Harvard graduate. He was an athlete running triathlons and marathons.
Yeah.
He was a very religious person. So he made waves in the entire military community getting religious accommodation. I was like, wow, this guy has done it all. He's a beacon, a light right here. And I was getting a bit nervous because I wanted to present myself in the right manner. I wanted to represent the podcast and not trip over my words and things like that.
Yeah.
And a big thing about these military icons in the community is that they're just normal people that have either motivated themselves or been able to push themselves to succeed. They're just normal people. I know that guest, as soon as we had him on the podcast, he was super friendly, very, very kind, well-spoken, easygoing, and I was like, man, I did not expect this guy to be like this.
Yeah.
And it was just a breath of fresh air. As soon as he started talking, I started to, level out, get my head straight, but do get nervous. And I think that doing more podcasts, especially on other platforms with other hosts and things like that, definitely helps you break out of your shell. And we have a bit of a reason to, in this virtual age. It's not like we're sitting in front of 100 plus people. It's being streamed, so I mean, it's a bit easier that way.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Like I've considered, doing like a live podcast where like people are actually in the room, and that'd be crazy. It's still something I'd be interested in doing, but you don't really think about the people who are listening while you're talking. Um, yeah, but like you said, whenever you have a big guest on, it usually just takes a few minutes to kind of settle in, and they are just normal people, and they've have a ton of experience communicating with people and portraying themselves in a good way. So usually, it goes pretty smoothly. Do you have
And
any? Go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No,
By
I
the
was
end
just,
of the podcast, typically they move from intimidating to inspiring. Like,
yeah.
hey, I used to be kind of nervous about this guy, how I was going to appear in front of him, what he's going to think of me. But then at the end, you're like, wow, I need to connect with this guy. I need to talk to him. All he's done is inspiring. Hey, I'm in that field as well. I need to talk to him more about what he's doing in there. So at the end of the day, networking is going to be a big reason as to why things become easier for you, especially when
Yeah.
you realize that, especially in the military community, everybody wants to help. Everybody's super friendly. Everybody's very, very kind and very open to having phone calls with you, Zoom meetings, podcasts, everything in between.
Yeah, it's really is a supportive community, and I'm so glad to, even though I just do a very little part, just to be kind of involved in it. It's cool stuff. Like so many Instagram accounts, whether it's your podcast or other podcasts, everyone's just kind of like I see one person on one show and then they're on the next show the next day, and everyone's just trying to help each other out, and it
For
really is
sure.
inspiring. And like you said about networking, it's kind of just you just have to go out and do it, right? Like no one else can do it for you. You just have to go out, talk to people, get connected, and the podcast is a great way to do that. But you don't have to have a podcast to start networking at all. If you see someone on a podcast, feel free to reach out to them. I mean, so many times on the podcast, they give you the person's contact information. Ask people questions, try to get involved any way you can. If you want to help, people are always looking for help.
Couldn't
Uh,
agree more.
yeah, I mean that's what it's about, and especially in the military community. Tell me a little bit about your high school interests and activities. I saw something on Instagram about robotics. I really want to talk about that and how you're going to continue that in college if you're interested.
For sure. So in high school, especially for the latter half,
Hmm.
I was very, very invested in robotics. On Guam, because it's still a small island, the robotics opportunities over there is far and few between. There's
Yeah.
about 3 organizations in total that you can be a part of from there. One is for Legos, one is for underwater robotics, and one is FIRST. It's a pretty big robotics
Yeah.
organization. And I participated in all of them. So I
Wow.
started off, my math teacher told me my PE teacher was the coach for the robotics team. I said, we have a robotics team. I'm going to go check it out. And I talked to him and he said, yeah, after training, I'll show you what we got. And then he took me into the little backwards closet in the back of the
Hmm.
gym in front of all the robotics materials. And I said, yep, I'm doing this. And at the time I said, all right, well, how many team members do you have? And he said, you're it.
You are the
So I
team.
said, well, you have all this equipment and all this and deadlines and all that, and you don't even have a team. He said, yep. And I said, okay, let's get started. And then it started out with me and one other person, my best friend at the time. And then it expanded to like 3 or 4 the year after. And then the year after, it's expanded to a team of around 10 at our school. And then now it's about 15, 20 people in that club.
There you go.
So in terms of what the robotics scene is like on Guam, the schools are pretty competitive since it's one of the only, I wouldn't say, one of the main STEM opportunities on the island being robotics.
Hmm.
Everybody wants a piece of it. So all the high schools are competing. The Department of Education has their own team and all that. So it's pretty darn competitive. All the local events, everybody's staring each other down and
Yeah.
making fun. But at the end of the day, it's still a friendly competition between everybody. Everybody's playing for the same team. But I did some underwater robotics, did some first competitions, did some Lego robotics. And then after a while, when I moved to homeschool, I started the robotics club over there, the Guam Homeschool Association, because I wanted to get the teens who aren't exposed to the normal education system to robotics,
Yeah.
because otherwise they had no outlet for those competitions. And unfortunately, halfway through the competitive season, we had to move off the island, so I left it in their hands, and not sure where they're at now. I gotta reach out to them.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I'm planning on doing in college, if they have a robotics team at ASU, which I know they do, I'm
Obviously,
definitely
yeah.
going to be applying to be a part of it. Even though I'm not an engineering major, and they might show me up a bit, I might get humbled, but I'm definitely still interested because
Hey,
robotics
that's
is
part
just
of it,
such a
man.
fun thing. Definitely. Everybody who I've met through robotics is either extremely, extremely intelligent, extremely open to teamwork and communication, or just has very, very innovative, creative ideas. You don't have to be an engineering major to succeed in robotics. You don't have to be a computer science major either. Unless your school's team is hyper competitive and they're focused on international championships and things like that. Robotics is just a really, really fun way to explore technology, open your mind to how circuits work and how
Yeah.
cameras work, how to design products and to test them and all that. It's just very, very fun, and I hope to be part of that in ASU.
Yeah, I was a part of a robotics team in like middle school. I did the Lego robotics, which was like pretty fundamental stuff compared to some of the high school robotics leagues that you see now. And you, like you said, you don't have to be an engineering major. You don't have to be super smart. A lot of it is just like being a good teammate, and that goes with pretty much any sport. And if you're willing to learn and you're willing to help out your teammates and be humbled, like you said, I swear 90% of college is just being humbled on a daily basis. At least for me, it's just like, not as smart as I thought I was every day. Um, then you can fit in pretty much anywhere, especially in like Dodea schools or like small schools like in Guam, where they're just like any, like you said, you were the only person on your team. Like you're just looking for anyone to contribute, like anyone who knows anything or is just willing to put in an effort. That's really how you can join something to make a difference pretty easily. So that's really cool you're a part of that and that you're willing to do that in college as well. And I mean, college robotics, I've seen videos and stuff. And my uncle is actually a coach for a high school league. They are doing so many cool things. Tell me a little bit about the competitions. What were some of the challenges you guys had to not overcome, but some of the challenges you guys worked on with your robots? I'm just interested. I'm not sure if anyone else is,
Oh
but
yeah, for sure, for sure. And I could talk at length about this. I mean, I loved my time in robotics mainly because of the camaraderie my team and I had.
yeah,
And at the end of like an 8-month competitive season, you did like 2 competitions, one for Lego, one for first, or one for Lego and one for underwater robotics.
yeah,
And you're looking back at all the different memories you made and the things you learned. And it's just like a very, very heartwarming feeling. It's awesome. But in terms of like the process in robotics, I like to compare it to the software development life cycle because
hmm,
though that agile mentality is something that you can apply to anything, right? So you design the product, you test it out, it's crap, you redo it, you test it out again, it's a little bit better, but it still doesn't work. All right, so
yeah,
you remove a half of the robot and fix the other half. Now the other half doesn't work again, so you need to redo that.
yeah,
But even though it can be frustrating, it's an amazing product that you create over especially the longer seasons, like 6 to 10 months, and that robot becomes your baby, whether it be creating your own waterproof
yeah,
cameras, manufacturing your own PCBs, or just exposing yourself to like the
yeah,
Chinese electronics market where you can buy everything and anything that you need to create a super, super innovative robot, or even looking at tutorials online and innovating what other people are doing, because not all the time you have to create the next wheel. You can take
yeah,
something that's already great and then make it better. And that's what's something I like about robotics, because there's no real pressure to be new and creative. It's not like you're starting your own business where you have to maintain presence in the community with something revolutionary in order to do something. You can just take a normal design, take a legacy design, improve on it, add your own spin based on the challenges of the competition, and then there you go. You have an award-winning robot.
yeah.
So I know, especially in the US here in the mainland, there's a bunch of different opportunities locally and internationally and
Hmm.
nationally for many, many robotics competitions. And for my 4 years in college before I head into the Air Force, I definitely want a piece of it in one way or another.
Yeah. It's addicting too. Like I think any team engineering projects, you just before you know it, you're spending all of your free time in like that back dusty room working on some project. And
Oh man, you
that's one of the
captured
best
that
feelings.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly. Especially in the first year, my friend and I were in that gym closet every day after school, every day for our whole lunch
Yeah.
period, on breaks, everything, just trying to tinker with the robot, just wrapping our heads around the strategy for the different tasks in the
Yeah.
competition. And wow, it was an experience.
Hmm. And that's one of the best parts about it. It really is just spending that time. Even if you're sitting there frustrated, just staring at the robot, like, come on, there's nothing else you'd rather be doing. You mentioned joining the Air Force. Tell me a little bit more about your plan for college. You already told me your major, but how you're going to be joining the military. That's a pretty big decision.
So ROTC is the main way I want to do that.
Yeah.
I am planning on commissioning as an officer in the Air Force after those
Hmm.
4 years. I hope to get an in-college scholarship to pay for the latter half of college, but
Yeah.
if that doesn't pan out, military would try and help me out there. But I definitely want to continue my education in the Air Force, so potentially pursue a master's and maybe even a PhD if it works out. And in terms of duty in the Air Force, I haven't planned that far out ahead.
Yeah. I know. It's a lot.
When I get into the POC for the last 2 years of ROTC and start signing the dotted line for what's gonna happen, I'll do some more planning around it. But for as of now, I want my computer science degree. I want
Yeah.
ROTC involvement, do some extra clubs and things like that, and maintain that tech presence in my life. Do some internships on the side as well, so that
Hmm.
come time for the Air Force, and I have a tech career, a cybersecurity career, or like a programming career. I don't want to be behind a lot. I don't want to be playing catch up with everybody around me. I'm not a huge fan of that feeling, even though you're learning.
Yeah.
I don't like feeling like, I'm the slowest one in the room.
Yeah.
So if I have that experience under my belt, even if I have to learn a lot of things in the Air Force, I'm totally fine with that because I'd have that background on me. Other than that, I mean, maintaining a either computer science, cyber operations pathway in the Air Force, or even branching out to, who knows, robotics or engineering in there.
Yeah.
Totally open to what the Air Force has for me. Not committed to anything yet there.
Gotcha. I mean, I know personally for me, like my mind changes about what I'm doing like every day. Like every day I'm like questioning my major. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Or you have like one bad exam and you start like reworking your entire life. But I think it's important. If you know what you want to do, just stay focused, try to stay even keeled, get through the highs and lows. There's gonna be some tough exams, there's gonna be some tough roadblocks for you. But it's great that you have a plan. I have a lot of respect for your decision too, going into the military as well. And I know that ROTC programs, at least the ones that's at my school, just really tight knit, really uplifting. They're all trying to make all the students get through it. And it's a great thing to be part of. I've heard nothing but good things. I know some of the like morning PT stuff isn't a whole lot of fun for a lot of the guys. I hear a lot of complaining about that. But yeah, I'm happy for you. That's gonna be a great opportunity.
Appreciate that, Shannon. And I had an Air Force orientation just yesterday where I traveled down to ASU. I met some of the cadres there, see what the type of crowd they're
Yeah.
attracting is, and it's for me. As soon as I walked in
Yeah.
there and saw the type of people that were attending this orientation, the types of cadres and graduates that they had, I knew that everybody in here is going to be like-minded. They're driven, they're motivated, they have that military presence in their life, so they have a direction they want to head
Yeah.
to. That's just the type of people that you want to be around. And oftentimes in ROTC, even Army, Marines, and Navy, they have a very dedicated, focused crowd.
Right.
And if you're interested in getting into the military, especially at an early age, ROTC or the Service Academy is the way to do it.
Mhm. It is a
I
great
think so.
pathway, and it's becoming more and more popular from at least from what I'm hearing. And now that I'm in college, and a lot of my friends are doing that, and so many of them are former military brats as well. It's a really popular decision for military brats. Yeah, nothing but good things. It wasn't for me, but you know, it's a
Yeah,
great
of
great
course, it's
path,
not
like
to
I
be for
said.
everybody, but at
Hmm.
least give it a shot. I know with ASU's Air Force program, you can try it out for a semester, the PT, the classes, and all that.
There you go.
And then if you don't like it, you can hop out, but you can still take the leadership classes. You can still join the clubs, so you don't have to completely destroy that military presence in your college life.
Right. And it can be overwhelming for some people. Like I said, the morning PT, and it's just really long days from what I know. It's just, just not a lot of sleep sometimes. But, you're not going to have a lot of sleep in college anyways. That's just kind of how it goes. I don't know what to tell you guys. Avi, every single podcast, I have a preposterous predicament, a would you rather question. It's just some fun. And I need your expert advice on this. This is very important. So let's play the Saw music. Let's get it going. Avi, are you ready for the preposterous predicament?
3 seconds on the clock.
Let's go, man.
Let's
I'm
go.
ready.
Would you rather, for the rest of your life, no more social media, or you have to eat the same dinner every night?
Does social media include YouTube?
Yes. No YouTube. So keep that in mind for your education. I know YouTube is the best teacher I've ever had. I'm not sure about you, but no YouTube. It's going to be Instagram. It's going to be your Facebook. I know you do a lot of work on social
For this
media.
conversation, forget education. I watch a lot of car videos online. I'm a big car person. I'm not going to be able to live a week without watching a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ or
Come on, go get some
Mercedes
DVDs.
Maybach.
Come on.
DVDs.
Go get some
okay.
DVDs. Turn back the clock.
Yeah. I'd rather eat the same dinner every day.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick the dinner, so I think that's a big pro going for you. If you had to pick one
I
meal.
think that won't matter because after 3-4 days, you're already sick of it.
It helps a little bit, right?
I mean, a little bit, but I love my car videos and my video games too much to give up YouTube, especially the cars. I mean, there's nothing better than watching the new Bentley Bentayga cruise down the street in 4K on Top Gear or like Throttle House or something.
So if I said that you got to keep YouTube, would that change your decision?
Yep. I'd give up
deal breaker.
Instagram. I'd give up I like LinkedIn a lot. I'd still probably take the dinner just because LinkedIn is a huge part of my life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, there you go, guys. That's some expert opinion right there on today's preposterous predicament. Thank you. I guess we can start wrapping up just a little bit. What's some advice you have for military brats just in general? I know we already talked about a lot about moving and getting involved, but is there anything else you would say to military brats right now?
Well, I can't say too much because I'm not a real military
No,
brat.
come on. So many people say that. I'm like, no, you're in it, you're involved. You lived in Guam. Come on.
Yeah, I would say in terms of fitting into the different areas that you're a part of or trying to find ways to accelerate your academic life or your sports life while moving around or potentially not being committed to a location and things like that, you have opportunities, especially in the smaller regions, to do all that. I know that some schools, high schools especially, when they see what you've done previously, they'll put you on the team.
Yeah.
All you got to do is connect with the coach over there, maybe even the principal if you have to. But typically, they know what you've been through, or they see what you've done. If you put it on a resume or your LinkedIn or something, they'll put you on the team, or they'll have you jump the line for tryouts. Things like that will happen. And in bigger areas, bigger land masses, states, whatever it may be, there are a myriad of opportunities. Typically in smaller areas, you have a better shot at 5 or 6 different things. In the larger areas, you have a slightly less better shot, but you have so many opportunities to attend. And that's something that really, really impressed me when we moved to Arizona from Guam, because I'm used to seeing 3 robotics competitions, 1 pathway from high school to college, 1 community college, 1 university. That's it. Over here, my sister, who's attending a high school over here, she's got 1,000,001 different options for college. She's got different scholarship programs and robotics programs. She's got all these different band scholarships and all that. And that wasn't available on Guam when I was there. And it's refreshing to see that. And I know if I was attending high school in the States, I'd be trying to everything in my power to be ramping all that up.
Yeah.
And in terms of fitting in society and things like that, find cliques that you already connect with. So if you know that the military community has been heartwarming and welcoming in the past, try and find for military kids. Just mentioning that, hey, my mom's in the army or I'm considering joining ROTC, you'll get like 4 people who turn their heads, hey, me too.
Yeah,
Hey, me
just like
too.
that,
Hey,
yeah.
me too. Just like that. And or, just mentioning where you're from. I just mentioned that my parents are from Trinidad in the orientation at ASU, and like 2 people turned their heads and said, hey, my parents are from the Caribbean too. Hey, my parents from from Trinidad as well. So it's pretty awesome just to
Yeah.
see what type of connections you can make with people just right out of the gate. And I know that the break-in period may be a bit long for people. I know mine for Guam was 2 years before I even accepted the thought of living on that island. But for those last 3 years, I'll always remember as probably the best time in my life. So many lessons learned, opportunities pursued, friends made, and it's just about breaking out of your shell every time you move somewhere or every time something changes in your life. But guess what? The more it happens, the easier it gets, because the more comfortable you get or the more conditioned you are. And keeping that positive mentality no matter what is going to be the reason that you succeed in the different regions you travel to, or how many friends you make, whether it be moving into college and things like that. Just because, like Shannon, you said earlier, it's almost always about the mentality around it. And hey, if you're stuck, if you need help, veteran organizations, military brat podcasts, volunteer associations, there's free resources out there. I mean, in the 21st century, 2022 right now, there's no excuse not to be spending a lot of time on the internet, doing anything you can to learn more. I know when I was trying to figure out what the Service Academy was about, I was going on LinkedIn. I was asking my E5 mom if she had anybody that was the past alumni for the academies or had a friend of a friend who got into the academy. And just by doing that, almost everybody I connected on LinkedIn, everybody my mom reached out to, they were open to a phone call, a Zoom meeting, if not long set of texts. So especially the military community, everybody's willing to help, everybody. So don't feel like they're gonna think I'm weird for reaching them out on LinkedIn, or I'm kind of socially awkward, a phone call's not gonna be too good, things like that, because they're just very understanding, and the military community is really like no other. So I mean, there's just so much out there.
I mean, you mentioned it, like there's no excuse to not learn. There's also no excuse to not do what you want to do, right? I mean, there's just so many opportunities, whether it's on the internet or in your school. I know if you're going to a small high school right now and you're worried about finding your crowd or not fitting in, you're going to have that opportunity in college, because there's so many, you're going to find your crowd. You really will. There's just so many people. And like you said, your orientation, it's just about efforts. It's about putting yourself out there, telling people about yourself and breaking out of your shell. And it just takes a little bit, and I just wish that people would get more comfortable doing that, and it would just do wonders for them, really.
There's nothing that hurts more than seeing an intelligent or charismatic, friendly person shy away from pursuing something that they want, like a degree or an opportunity, just because they think they won't do well or they can't get it. I mean, it's like
Or based on how they're perceived by others, right? And they'll think, oh, they're going to think I'm weird or something.
It hurts because you know that these people are capable, or you know that there's potential out there, but they just won't push themselves. So if we can break out that mentality, especially as Gen Z, I know it's pretty infamous with our age, that's going to be really, really helpful, especially in college when you're being humbled every other day and you're learning a lot.
Well, I couldn't have put it any better, Avi. You've been absolutely terrific. So I think the big takeaway is less TikTok, guys, little more LinkedIn. Is that fair to say?
There we go.
That's the way to go.
Well, hey, even on TikTok, you have a bunch of people that are maybe not too much in the military community, but a lot of people who will give you resources for things like mental health, breaking out of your shell, public speaking, college tips, high school tips, teen society, rules of thumb, all that. I know
you just gotta go out and find it.
There we go. I know that especially in the pandemic, these last 2.5 years ish have been pretty tough for me because I've been isolated at home. I haven't had many friends face to face, and it just felt pretty claustrophobic. Staying
Right.
from home, meeting everybody through a screen, it gets old after 2 years, but TikTok can help you find ways to make sure that you don't lose your social skills over
Hmm.
the pandemic. Make sure you're sharp on those for when you get into college. And I know, especially online in this community, in this scene, I was really, really worried about heading into college and everybody being the next Bill Gates, everybody being the next
Oh,
SpaceX director.
sure.
And I was very, very intimidated applying to college, thinking everybody's going to be so much better. I'm going to be so behind. I'm not going to make friends with anybody. But as soon as I hopped into that orientation, I remembered that, hey, everybody's just a normal person. Not
Hmm.
everybody you meet's going to be the next Bill Gates. You definitely meet some, but those people are either going to be super friendly or super open to help. So just got to make sure that those misconceptions that you have are always buried in the back of your head and
Right.
never stopping you from doing what you want to be doing.
And everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Like there might be a guy who has the mind of the next Bill Gates, but if you're more of a sociable person, you're more of a people person, or you can present really well, play to your strengths, you know? Like you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but if you're doing what you do well and you put that on display, people are going to recognize that. I really think so.
Exactly. Oh yeah, for sure. Couldn't agree more. And we could have a whole podcast on that alone.
Yeah,
So
really. We really
I
could.
mean, it's great.
Yeah, well, we gotta do this again sometime. This has been really good. Tell people where they can find you and the podcast.
Sure thing. So if you want just an area for all my socials, I have a link tree. I'll give Shannon that.
Perfect.
So, but my LinkedIn is Avinash Dhanraj. You'll see the headshot. Facebook, Avinash Dhanraj. Instagram is avinash.tech. I don't use Instagram for professional things. It's more of personal social media,
Hmm.
but definitely on LinkedIn. I'm active there. Message me, connect with me. Send me a note that you're from the podcast or something, because I tend to
Yeah,
reject people that don't have mutual connections with me, um, or because it's a lot of spam on LinkedIn.
for
But
sure.
LinkedIn and Instagram, if you want to be personal friends with me, those are the two main platforms. I have a Discord and all that. I'll give Shannon all that to put in like the show notes
Sounds
or
good.
description, something like that. But Shannon, you were an awesome host, man.
I appreciate that.
Watching your podcasts on Instagram and Spotify is very, very awesome. I mean, you're just like a normal person.
Thank you. Yes,
I know
very
that when
normal.
I was hopping into the podcast, I said, "Oh my goodness, this guy's a military brat. He's gonna know so much more than me. I'm gonna be intimidated the whole time." No, man, you're super friendly and all that. Loved being on the
Nope,
podcast.
we're just chilling. Exactly. I love
Just
having
chilling.
so many different guests. So, yeah,
Awesome.
thank you very much. I'll put all the notes in and have a great day, everyone. Thank you.